Hello, everyone. It's Dave Bondy, guy on the screen. You probably know the name Bob Love. He sponsors our Pet of the Day segment, but I wanted to bring him on because over the last month, I've talked so much about the importance of insurance and many instances, and whether it's from a storm or a fire or whatever. Bob, you join us now. Many people, when they own a home, they're required, right, to have insurance, like if it's a mortgage.
Definitely, if there's a mortgage, most banks do require them to protect their asset. Absolutely.
Okay, there was a story, and I'm going to bring a picture up on the screen. I know it had nothing to do with you, but it was a
Hmm.
woman's home in Saginaw. She was barely making ends meet. This was her home. A tree fell on her home, and she had no insurance whatsoever. The city ended up demolishing it. I'm not even going to go into that part of the story. What I wanted to talk to you was she had no insurance whatsoever. And she said
Yeah.
she couldn't afford anything, but now she has no home, no land. And I think this showed the importance of if you can at all get any insurance whatsoever on your home, right? It's so important.
It really is, and the truth is your house is one of your largest assets you're going to have through your life. Your largest asset in a lot of cases is you and your ability to make an income.
Yeah.
But your house is right there second, and a place to live, and not only that, but then your belongings, and then frankly your liability. And there's so many other things that go with it, but um, house insurance has gone up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Michigan is not one of the most expensive states to have house insurance in across the nation. I don't even think we're in the top 10. I could be wrong, but I know we're not in the top 5 last I looked. But that said, it is still really important to have it because of what it covers. And frankly, if a person cannot insure their home to 100% of their value, their rebuild value, most companies will allow to go down maybe in increments of 10 or 15%
Oh,
of that percent. So if my rebuild cost is $100,000, maybe I can only insure it for 50,000. And if that's the case, I may not have full replacement cost at that point. Maybe I'm using an actual cash value or depreciated cost as we'll hear about it. But something is in most cases better than nothing.
and you can work with people. I know when I was younger, when I just got out of school, I was living in Indiana in an apartment. I was making 20,000 a year as a reporter, and I met with, I think it was State Farm at the time in Indiana, and they worked with me. You can work with people on their individually on their needs, right? On and how much they can afford.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, insurance is very, very individual. I mean, there are so many algorithms that work into quoting from every company out there, and so any price that a person has really is individual to them. There's no cookie cutter.
And like I lived in apartments most of my life up until
Mhm.
I got older, got married. Renter's insurance. Oh my! I didn't realize how important it was until I had an apartment fire and I had it.
Yep.
They put me up in a hotel. They paid for the damages, and it wasn't that expensive at the time. But once again, you don't realize how much you need it until something like that happens.
Yeah, you don't realize you need it until you have it. I tell everybody, the kids in college, young people going into their first home, their first apartment, whatever that is. And sometimes adults that go back in with mom and dad, things like that. If you can get renters coverage because it covers everything from your personal property to your liability and everything. There's just a lot of coverages that it takes care of for you to make sure that you're protected. Because the fact of the matter is, when the bad happens, it's all risk. That's what insurance is risk. So
Yeah.
I can either put away a little bit under the mattress for when that bad thing happens. I can pay a company, a little bit every month when the bad thing happens, or I can, do my very best to just deal with it when the bad happens,
Yeah.
which it does not work out for most people, right? I mean, homes, cars, they're just so expensive. So whether I'm self-insuring and I'm putting a little bit under the mattress, as I've said, and I'm comfortable spending whatever that is, tens of thousands of dollars, or if I'm giving it to an insurance company, for instance, then let them take care of that larger cost.
Exactly. The last thing I want to bring up, it was actually here where I live in Saginaw County. I had a power out at my home for 4 days. And also up north, I'll bring up the photo. This is from the state police helicopter the other day. Gaylord.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All the ice just brought the trees
Hmm.
down, the power lines. That was crazy. And then I started getting calls from some people who had mobile homes or so forth, and they had no insurance whatsoever. And
Hmm.
it's really sad because I had people who did have insurance and they were being taken care of. So it like you said, it's a risk, but if you have no insurance, everything's going to come out of your pocket then, if you have no insurance whatsoever.
Oh, absolutely. You are at that point, you are self-insuring. You have made the decision as the individual to self-insure and pay all of my own costs, my own losses. And that sounds really good until a loss happens, and then, suddenly where do I come up with $55,000 at, or whatever that number is, and that's what happens. I've never met a person that sits down in front of me with any kind of homeowner auto, whatever, and says, "Oh my gosh, man, I am so thankful I'm here. I can't wait to spend my money on insurance." Nobody really wants to pay for insurance. But there's a cost of doing business when we buy items, homes, boats, ATVs, UTVs, cars, whatever it is. There's a cost of doing business to that, and in most cases, it's ensuring that to be sure that it covers your buy-in into the product.
Yeah.
Uh, the I tell people a lot, life insurance is crazy because we'll insure everything under the sun, and then we forget about ourselves. And that's another one where now that is usually where people are like, "Gosh, I'm really thankful I have this." And there's more of um, an understood need, I suppose. It's not as hard to pay for that one, I guess. But
Yeah, and I every day or every other week I hear of someone who, oh my God, they were 40 years old and they died from this or that. And I worked in TV news and we talked about this before, but life insurance, I want to take care of the people I have left, to
Mhm.
pay for my funeral, to make sure my wife is taken care of. So to think about, I'm not really even thinking about myself at all because I'll be dead. I'm thinking about them, and you're able to work with people as to, okay, I want to take care of my mortgage, or I want to make sure my wife's good or my kids. You can sit
Mhm.
down with people and just sort all that out.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well,
The
I want
best thing that so whether it be me or a person's agent, whoever it is that they work with, the very best thing that I would tell anybody is to go meet with a professional that has the licenses, that has the certifications, that understands the products, and say, "This is where I'm at." And go through a full analysis, go through a life analysis with the individual.
right.
I do it with my team in both my offices, and let's work with our customers to best understand what they're looking for, what they need, and why. Once we get the why behind it, we understand, how we can protect and kind of look at the really the four walls of their financial household, if I could put it that way.
Yeah, so you're not just selling, it's a relationship you're building with these people.
I tell you this much, in this industry, if anybody's selling you any kind of insurance, they're doing it wrong. Because this really should be consultation. In my opinion, that's how we always run everything. This should be sitting down with an individual, understanding the needs, understanding what their family looks like, what they're trying to accomplish long term. Do I have kids for college? Do I want to retire? What do I want to do when I retire? Do I have any kind of savings for that? Whatever.
Yeah.
Get an understanding of what they're looking for, and then grow with the individual long term.
Wow.
That's what we should be doing. Unfortunately, this industry can be very wild, wild west at times, and you get what you get. But that's why it's important to find the right person.
Yeah, and that's why I work with you. I appreciate everything you do and supporting the dogs and the pets, and but also the insurance, and anyone can reach out to you. Is there one number they can call no matter where they're at, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have two offices. I really, frankly, like for instance, the Flushing office, if you call that one, the Vassar office picks that up as well. So, either way, you reach out to us, we'll pick up a phone.
Okay, I'll put the number and the website on the screen, but thank you more so for educating us about the importance of insurance, because you don't hear people, especially the media, they cover the tragedies, but they don't cover things that can help with those tragedies. So, yeah,
Yeah, and to that point, Dave, I really appreciate you doing this and just bringing the awareness to it because we commonly think of a GoFundMe, for instance, and the GoFundMe's happen when we don't have the other means or the other assets, and that's where just coming in, sitting down with somebody, and working with a monthly insurance cost, for instance, can help prevent much of that.
exactly. Amen. Thank you so much, sir.